tend to coach, not always, but quite
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of
I
course.
use a mixture. Yes, and I'm not very good at tracking it, so I don't
Yeah.
really know what works.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I want to welcome you. I'm going to just check to make sure we're live streaming to Facebook here. So let me just check that really quick. There we go. And are we on? Yes, we are. Okay. So
Great.
welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Laugh Lines and Turbulence again. And Debbie won't be with us tonight. She got in late from a flight, so she's not going to be able to make it. But that's not stopping us.
Not at all.
I'm here. No, I'm here with Tabbin Almond. I'm saying your name right, aren't I?
You are, yes. It's
Okay,
made up, so
perfect.
you can say it
I
how you
should
like,
check first.
but
So, and she's gonna share her amazing story with us, and I'm going to find her bio. It's here somewhere. It kind of got buried. So I had it pulled up. All right. So now I gotta make it big enough so I can read it because you know
oh,
the age thing.
yeah.
Okay. So Tabin Almond's drinking career started early and really took off when she worked in advertising. On the outside, she was coping, but inside she was falling apart. She had a period of sobriety, but dealing with breast cancer saw her return to old habits. It took another 4 years for her to find a way of putting alcohol firmly behind her. She is now a certified alcohol freedom coach, working with individuals and businesses to help prevent alcohol harm. She hosts the Alcohol Debate podcast and is the author of Bottling Up Trouble. And then her organization name is Wine to Water Coaching. So, welcome, Tabin. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is such a great topic to talk about because I think there are a lot of people who struggle with
For
alcohol
sure.
use.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your story and like where that shift happened?
Yeah, well, I started drinking. I mean, I often say this, and I genuinely believe it's true. I don't think that when I was a child, I don't think I knew any adults, any grown-ups who didn't drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It was completely part of life, certainly within our family, but also my parents' friends. And um, I grew up, in fact, very really close to where I now live, in a very rural area in southwest England, and predominantly kind of farming families, small, very small farms, and their social life entirely revolved around alcohol for the adults. So it's no
Mm,
surprise that as I grew up and my brothers grew up, we just drank.
yeah.
Um, and my drinking was initially just social.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was at home. I do remember being in the pub where you're not supposed to drink until 18. That's the legal age of drinking here in the UK. And I
Okay.
was in the pub and I was, with all my friends, and we were really in the habit of going there,
Mhm.
celebrating my 17th birthday, and the
Mm.
landlord saying, yeah, you might want to keep quiet about that, because you're not
Oh,
even
yeah.
supposed to be in here. Um,
Yeah.
or or rather you're allowed to be in here, but you're not supposed to be drinking. But we weren't, at that stage, it wasn't a problem at all. I went off to university and drank, and I don't think I drank really very differently to anybody else at university. I
Mm.
then had a year, I studied French, and so I
Okay.
had a year in France, and
Mm.
just, the luck of the draw, I landed up in Cognac, which was the home of Cognac,
Yeah.
obviously. And my initial job was teaching in a school. Um, and then once the school year had finished, I got a job with Hennessy Cognac. Um, and um, and I think possibly by the time I went back to university for my final year, I think maybe I did drink a bit more than everybody else, but no, it wasn't something I was worried about at all.
Right.
And then after I left university, I did a couple of jobs, but then I very quickly landed up in advertising. And one of the things I absolutely loved about advertising was that I was being paid to go and get drunk every lunchtime. Um,
Wow.
because I worked in the media department, so
Mhm.
that, and it's slightly different nowadays, but in those days you planned all media. So you were saying which media should we use for any given campaign and clients' objectives and stuff. And then in my role, I bought all media apart from TV, which was very specialist, but I would still plan it. So every media owner, TV station, radio station, newspaper, magazine, online didn't exist back then, but um, um, all of them wanted to influence me and persuade me that their medium and their title should be on my clients' schedules. And I worked on some really big accounts, so I was worth money to them, I suppose. Hopefully we had good relationships anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I could quite literally be out to lunch in every sense of the word 5 days a week. And having good relationships with those media owners meant that they would look after my clients' ads. They would put them in prominent positions in the paper, or the first in break in on TV or whatever. So and I worked on some really a lot of American brands actually. I worked on Apple and Pepsi and
Oh, wow.
Gillette, and British Telecom, and not all at the same time necessarily, but so they were big brands that were worth a lot. And I just got into the habit of drinking every day, and
Mhm.
nearly always at lunchtime with a media owner. Um, I would do my thinking work in the morning and my
Mhm.
admin in the afternoons, because I always thought, oh, this could be a bit risky. But
Yeah.
that was the pattern, and it wasn't unusual. That's the weird thing. And we're talking about the late 80s here, but
Yeah.
I started in advertising, I think, in 1984, because I'm very old. Um, uh, and and I did really well. That's the other thing. It wasn't like holding me back. It was
Mm.
putting me forward, if anything.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, and then I mean, the bit I haven't mentioned is there within my family, immediate family, my parents and particularly my mum, there was a lot of drinking, and that was actually a problem. Um, and I didn't want to drink the way my mum drank.
Mm.
Suddenly realized gradually, by the time I got married and in my late 20s, I was thinking, you are displaying some of those same patterns. And then
Mm.
I had two children, and I found no problem at all not drinking when I was pregnant. Just not at all. It wasn't even an
Wow.
issue.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, that's okay. I'm
Right.
I'm obviously not, as I would have called it then, an alcoholic. Um,
Right.
because I
Because an
can
alcoholic would do that, maybe.
exactly, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I can't be addicted because I'm finding it absolutely fine. But then
Mhm.
after each pregnancy, I was quite quickly back drinking again.
Mm.
Um, or once I'd stopped breastfeeding anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was back at work full time, and we had a, a live-in nanny. That was the most sort of, at that time, that worked best. It was certainly best for the children.
Mhm.
Um, but I would come home and kind of take over from her and do bath and bed and stuff. And I do remember, and it makes me feel sad now, but I would rush through bath and bed and reading them stories and stuff in order to get downstairs and have my glass of wine.
Mm.
Except it was not a glass, it was probably at least half a bottle. Uh,
Mhm.
but it I often tried not to drink as much. And I would
Mhm.
have the odd evening where I'd sort of consciously, no, I'm going to drink water tonight, or I'm just going to have a herbal tea or whatever. But
Yeah.
most days I was drinking.
Mhm.
Um, and then this was all living in London. And my husband and I moved down to Devon, where I now live, which is very remote. And that's where I'd grown up, and he initiated that move. Um, but I was really, really happy, to move and to be able to spend more time with the children and all the rest of it.
Mm.
But he was working away a lot. His job took him abroad for spells of a couple of weeks at a time. And so the lifestyle was quite different. I didn't have anybody at home to look after the children when he wasn't there. So I was sort of at home in the evenings on my own with two sleeping children, just me in the house.
Yeah.
So that pattern of drinking wine just carried on, and
Mm.
it
Mhm.
gradually crept up. Um, and over time, I realized, this is actually a problem,
Mm.
and I want to do something about it.
Mhm.
Um, and that would have been in the probably by the late 90s, I would
Yeah.
think.
Sure.
So I would have been around sort of 40-ish, but there weren't many options. And I'd heard of AA, didn't really sound like my thing. So I
Mhm.
started off reading books. Um,
Okay.
and even then there weren't very many. Um,
Mm.
uh, and then I tried AA. I wasn't, it was making sense intellectually, but I just wasn't able to put it into practice.
Yeah.
Um, I then tried AA, which I tried for a couple of years, and I don't know, it just did not work for me. And I thought maybe I was going to that different meetings had different vibes, as it were. So I tried three different sort of locations, and but every time I found it was that I don't know how to describe it, but I felt like I wasn't in the right place,
Mm.
and I it was very male. Um,
Okay.
everybody there was this sort of like almost like glorying in the rock bottom. These stories of your rock bottom, and
Mhm.
and I don't blame any of the individuals there, but I I just had this feeling that they were thinking, "Oh, go away, girl, until you've had a proper rock bottom. You shouldn't be here. This is for us serious alcoholics, not for somebody
Yeah.
else." Yeah. Um, and years later, well, after I'd done my initial training, I did a bit of training with a lady called Jolene Parks, and she has um, a course for teaching people, coaching coaches, as it were, in grey area drinking. And that was probably the area I was in, or
Ah.
maybe towards the very dark grey, but I
Yeah.
wasn't having, you know, I never got done for drink driving or anything like that. I didn't have anything really gory happen.
Yeah.
But with the AA not working, even though I did give it a good go. The other thing is I kind of had a problem with the word alcoholic, and I still do,
Mm. Mhm.
because I couldn't have articulated it then, but I now realise that my issue was that it was at the time I was just thinking, I don't know what an alcoholic is. There's no definition. Is
Yeah.
it that I'm drinking more than X units of alcohol a week, or that three bad things have happened, or I drink, more than 4 days a week, and or
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the definition was. And I think because of my job in advertising being quite sort of analytical and research orientated, I was like, I just want to know whether I am one or not, and then maybe I can scale back a bit so I'm not one anymore. But there
Yeah,
weren't
and like what's the
answers.
difference between social drinking
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
and alcoholic?
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, it's also the other thing that I realized was that it's a label on a person, and actually it's not the person that's the problem, it's the
Mm.
booze. And if you
Mhm.
so we don't say uh, somebody's a broken footaholic or something. It's I don't believe personally, there's lots of literature about this, but I don't subscribe to the disease model,
Right.
that it's a disease. um, I see sort of problematic drinking as a very human response, because it
Mm.
does in the short term work, to
Mhm.
some form of emotional pain or trauma or sadness or void.
Numbing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like a self-medication, really.
Yeah.
Um, But alcohol is the problem, not the person. And when
Mm-hmm.
you can help the person to kind of see alcohol for what it is and give them some tips and tools and strategies and ways of coping with life that don't
Yeah.
rely on alcohol, they're not an alcoholic anymore. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
anyway, it didn't work for me. Um, and so I tried a bit more on my own. And then I read um, a book called The Easy Way to Control Alcohol by Alan Carr. And I loved even the title. I loved the
Yeah.
easy way. That sounded appealing. Um,
Right.
to
Like
control
easy.
alcohol. Yeah, yeah. Because I
Right.
thought, okay, this is going to be great. And my goal at that stage would have been, I want to just be a normal, whatever that is, social drinker.
Yeah.
That's why what I was trying to get to. But
Mm-hmm.
when I read that Alan Carr book, it really I found it really, really helpful. And knowing my kind of, I've been trying at this for probably 15 years by then. So I signed up to do a 1 day one-on-one hypnotherapy course with one of his coaches. Uh,
Mm.
and that was really, really good. I um I can still remember off pat some of the things he said. Um, and basically with the hypnotherapy and his approach, he's working with your subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the hypnotherapy is rewiring your subconscious brain for you
Mm-hmm.
effortlessly. You just sit there and somebody's kind of doing it for you. Um, so the only effort was parting with £800 as it was then. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a lot more now, but it was. And if you'd asked me after that, I was sober, alcohol free, for 7.5 years after that, and I
Oh.
honestly thought I'd cracked it. I'd,
Mm.
found the keys to the
You would
kingdom.
think so after
Yeah,
7
yeah.
years. Yeah.
And it was there was no effort involved. It was effortless. It was just, yeah, I used to drink. I don't now. Don't have a problem with other people drinking, but this isn't for me anymore. I'm much happier
Mm.
without it. Um, but then the wheels came off the bus somewhat in my life. Um, in 2013, after a couple of years of a lot of unhappiness for both of us, my marriage fell apart. I knew something was wrong, seriously wrong. Just and I actually through my work, they helped me financially, but that I saw a therapist, and I remember him talking to him, and he said, "Okay, you need to think about what's going on with John, because this is not just depression in the normal state of
Mm.
things. There's
Mm.
something big going on that he's either hiding or suppressing or repressing." And we were in a lot of financial difficulty. So, and I went home and I remember thinking on the way back, well, maybe he's borrowed more money and I don't know about it. And I thought, no,
Mm.
that's not it. That's not it. And I thought, maybe he's having an affair.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but that moment of pure inner wisdom, that, gut feeling.
Your gut
And
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, and I just thought, he's not having an affair with a woman. He's not into women. And I suddenly thought, that is what it is. And, um, and everything kind of fell into place. I thought, yeah, we used to joke that he was better at arranging flowers than me and stuff like that. But he is
Oh,
actually gay and he's really struggling with this.
right.
Um, so, as it happened, my best friend was coming to stay that weekend. And we'd talked a lot about the fact that John was clearly really struggling and unhappy with something. And I said to her, "Yes, I think I've worked it out. I think he's gay." And she'd known him as long as I had. In fact, she'd introduced us. Uh,
Oh,
and
wow.
she went, "Oh my God, yeah." And neither of us, I just literally hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was obviously bisexual rather than gay,
Right.
um, but it, I asked him about it a few weeks later. I just really needed to pick my moment. And I
Mhm.
thought I handled it very well, but he got really angry and defensive. And I thought, okay, he's just not ready to talk about it yet. But
Right.
he not in a horrible way, but he knows I know kind of thing. And then
Mm.
eventually he said, do you remember that conversation that we had? And I went, yeah. And he said, you were right. I wasn't ready to deal with the consequences, as it were. And
Right.
anyway, we landed up splitting up. We tried to get me hard to my already in a he'd school and out start at uni when so it was particularly hard for him.
Right.
Uh, and that was this was like 6 weeks before our silver wedding anniversary, which was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And you have in mind, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And like, oh, no,
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And then he went off to Australia, and then I realised that the financial situation was actually quite a lot worse than I'd realised, and he was he basically had a breakdown. I think he was not um, he wasn't he didn't give me any support,
Yeah.
but I don't think he was in a position to. Um,
Right. Right.
uh, but it did mean it was blooming hard for me. I was at
Mm.
home in this house. It was a big house. We bought the house that I grew up in from my parents, um, and all these financial problems, trying to sell the house and find somewhere smaller,
Yeah.
and um, all through that, I didn't drink. Didn't even think about drinking. Um, and then I had another of those gut feeling moments when I'd had a lump in a breast and it was being kept an eye on. So every
Mhm.
6 months I had a mammogram,
Yeah.
and I think it was the 11th one or something. And I got a letter between Christmas and New Year. It's no problem, we've checked, no problem, see you in six
Right.
months. And I thought, that's good. And then I
Yeah.
woke up one night between Christmas and New Year, so a few days after getting that letter, thinking, just that real strong gut instinct again. That's not right. This isn't as it should be. You've got a problem here.
Mm.
And I have no idea where that came from, other than
You
this,
have such a
you know,
strong intuition.
just such,
Hmm.
I mean, but in this case, it turned out to be life-saving because I went to the
Yeah.
doctor and I said, and being a small rural community, I knew my doctor, and I said, you're going to think I'm mad, but I don't think that's right. I think that I need to have a second opinion because I don't think that's right. I think the mammogram result is wrong. And I explained why, and he went, well, let's just get you checked.
Mm.
And he said, and let's get you into the hospital, and they can look at it. Now, what was amazing was the minute I went into the hospital, I met a breast surgeon because that was the first person you meet. She took one look at it. She said, I'm really glad you're here. I don't like the look of this, which was like,
Wow.
okay. And she
Right.
explained they'd do another mammogram and then they would do an ultrasound, like the ultrasound that they do when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, and she said the radiographer, I think that's the right title, who
Hmm.
does the ultrasound won't volunteer any information, but if you ask him outright, he will tell you what he thinks. So he, I had the mammogram, yet another one, and he came in and he was like a bit dismissive. He said, I don't really know why you're here. You only had a mammogram a month ago or whatever. And I
Right.
explained, and he was quite patronizing. And he was like, oh, well, let's just, do this quickly and then we can put your pretty little head at rest kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he started doing the ultrasound and he was very quiet, didn't say anything. Um, and and I eventually said, what can you see? And it still gives me chills when I think about this, but he he turned from his screen and looked me square in the eye and said, I can see a woman with potentially life-saving instincts. And I went,
Wow. Now
yeah.
you gave me chills.
Yeah. And he said, you're absolutely right. You've got he said we call it a DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. He said it's big. It's between 4.5 and 5 centimeters long. Um, and we need to act fast.
Wow.
He said, it's possible that it's spread to your lymph nodes, because at this size, we would expect it to certainly be on its way. Um, he said we need to do a biopsy to find out what type it is, because there can be different, mine was an estrogen receptor, which is common.
Mhm.
But we need to find out what it is, so that we know what the right treatment is. But he
Mm.
said that there is no doubt that we are dealing with breast cancer here. And I thought, and because I'd gone on my own. I'd gone to hospital. I just thought, well, I'm just going for a check. And I didn't really expect to find anything out. So I
Right.
was reeling. And I remember I went into town and bought a birthday card for somebody and bumped into a friend. And she said, "Oh my God, are you all right?" And I went, "Actually, no, I'm not." She
Mm.
obviously knew everything about the marriage and stuff. And
Yeah.
and and I told her, and she said, "You know my friend Sally? I'll get her to call you tonight." And I knew that Sally had been through breast cancer. Sally
Yeah.
phoned me that night and said, "You're probably absolutely reeling, but I'm here." And as it turned out, I had exactly the same thing as her. So
Wow.
she was a brilliant, brilliant ally through it all.
Yeah, I
Um,
bet.
and even then, I didn't drink. I went home. My daughter came back. Um, that was on a Tuesday, and my daughter came back on the Friday. Um, or even the Thursday, 'cause she had a reading week or something from university, because she came with me. I told her,
Yeah.
and she came with me to the appointment on the Friday when they confirmed that yes, it was, and it was estrogen receptor, etc., etc.
Mm. Mhm.
And that's when I first met the oncologist, and we said that, and you get way too much choice. Do you want to have surgery first, or do you want to have chemo first?
Mm.
Just tell me what to do.
Right,
I'm a
right.
rabbit in headlights at
You're
this
the
point. Yeah.
expert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the NHS, our NHS, which is amazing, it's under strain, but it is amazing. But they have this sort of thing about patient choice, which is
Mhm.
fine. But I
It
wasn't in a position to make many decisions really. But
right.
but over the next couple of weeks, I did,
Yeah.
and I opted for surgery, and to have my lymph nodes tested then,
Yeah.
during the surgery, and then afterwards, if necessary, chemo and radiotherapy.
Yeah.
So I went back with my daughter, and my brother came with us as well. Um, and we went to sort of kind of get the results, to have a checkup post surgery and to get the results of the lymph nodes.
Yeah.
And the surgeon said, "Okay, the operation's been completely successful. We think we've caught everything. However, we tested 7 lymph nodes, and the cancer is in all 7 of the lymph nodes we
Oh,
tested, and
wow.
in a really high count. So the concern is that it has spread, and we need to find out if it has and where it's spread to. So we've booked you in for an MRI, a CT, just like a
Yeah.
bone scan, uh, everything. Just like, we need to see what's going on here." And that was terrifying,
I
especially as
bet.
I'd lost a friend to breast cancer. Actually, it was a different, hers was the HER2 receptor, but and it had gone into her bones, gone into her sternum, and from there
Mm.
around. So I was thinking, I'm going to go the same way. And
Yeah.
I was really distraught at the idea that my children, having not lost their father, but he wasn't in their lives at that moment, and he wasn't very
Yeah.
well mentally, and he was struggling with
Right.
his own stuff, and that
Right.
I was going to check out, be dead in a few months with breast cancer. That was what was in my head.
Right. Right.
And we went home, and my brother and daughter opened a bottle of wine, which was their norm. I mean, normally that would, I just thought, yeah, carry on, I'll have
Mhm.
something else. And I remember thinking, I'll have some.
Mhm.
And it's, one of those moments where I suspect they exchanged looks and decided, well, we're not going to say anything because she's just had this really devastating news. Um,
Right.
and I drank in order not to be in my head. My
Mhm.
head was a really scary place. Um,
Mhm.
and um, I felt dreadful the next day, really dreadful. I've no idea how much I drank. Um, Probably at least a bottle of wine, which,
Yeah.
having not drunk for 7.5 years, was
Right.
like, um,
You were
and
tanked.
I just remember feeling truly dreadful the next day.
Right.
And my daughter laughing and telling and phoning my son at uni saying, "It's really funny, Mummy's got a hangover." Uh,
Mm.
And then she realized, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said anything because he didn't at that stage didn't know about the breast cancer because I wanted to tell him face to
Oh,
face. And
yeah,
so she said, oh, it's all Tom Tom, my brother. It's all Tom Tom's fault. He got her drunk, and Eddie was a bit
yeah.
surprised. Yeah. Um, and then, but I was very quickly, I was back in the hospital. And the reason I remember that hangover so clearly is because I was in an MRI scanner feeling like I was going to throw up. And that's, it's like, this is thousands of pounds worth of equipment. I cannot be sick in here.
And that's where you gotta hold still in the tube, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
gosh, I can't even
so
imagine.
it was, yeah, not a good day. Um, and the really good news was it hadn't spread beyond
Wow.
there. But they said, right,
Wow.
what we're going to do, we need to get those lymph nodes out.
Mhm.
So that was very quick. As soon as I sort of recovered, I was back in having that surgery.
Yeah,
And then we'll start chemotherapy.
okay.
And there were a couple of complications, and I actually had some more surgery in between, but and then chemo and then radiotherapy. So that whole year was pretty intense,
Mm,
lots of hospital visits and lots of, sort of, yeah, unpleasant stuff. And I didn't
yeah.
really drink very much, but I do remember I was alcohol was back in my head, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, I have it on my website. I have a photograph of me on the day I finished my radiotherapy, the last day of my treatment,
Yeah.
bald with a scarf wrapped around my head,
Mm.
celebrating the end of my treatment for breast cancer with a glass of Prosecco,
Mm, mhm.
completely unaware at that stage that alcohol increases your risk of breast cancer. I
Mhm.
literally did not know that.
Mm,
So
mhm.
I gradually just, I got stronger. I went back to work and I was back drinking. The only thing
Mm,
was that most people didn't thought that I didn't drink because I'd had 7.5 years of not drinking.
yeah.
So, and I didn't kind of want to get into that conversation. So I had this thing where um, I would go to a party or a dinner party or whatever, and I'd have a glass or two of wine
Mhm.
and then drive home because I was nowhere near the limit, and
Right.
then start drinking when I got home.
Yeah.
And drink on my own, uh, or if I wasn't going out, just come home and drink. And it
Yeah.
gradually ramped up and up and up. Um, and I can remember a Christmas, well, it would have been Christmas 2017, so 3.5, 3 and a bit years after the cancer. And I came home from work, and it was at Christmas, and I was wrapping presents, and the children were both coming back the
Mhm.
next day. And I don't know why, but I drank. I thought, well, I'd finish this off, and I'll finish that off, and I'll finish that off. And I was just sort of drinking stupidly, mindlessly. And
Yeah.
again, woke up with the most awful hangover. And as soon as I opened the door, my son just looked at one look at me and said, "Oh my God, mother, you're hanging, aren't you?" Oh, yeah. And I felt so ashamed and
Mm,
embarrassed, and I was rubbish that day. And they took over the sort of Christmas lunch preparations, and
yeah.
the one that really hit me was that day, Christmas Eve, our local pub has a really sweet tradition, and she has a party for all the dogs in the village. Um,
Oh, that's
and they all get
sweet.
there's Santa Claus giving presents to all the dogs. So I
Aw.
took the dog for a walk, thinking, okay, well that'll make me feel better, so getting outside and fresh air. And I was actually feeling a bit better. Then went into the pub, loads of people drinking, and sort of really hot, really noisy. And I thought, I can't do this. It's just too loud, too many people. I feel really
Right.
awful. And so I left, and the dog didn't get his present. And and I
Oh.
and I thought, oh, my drinking has even affected the dog. Um, um, and I just thought then I've got to do something about this. So I started Googling. I think I probably Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?"
Mm,
And it kind of, if you do that, you kind of know the answer. Even if I don't like the word alcoholic, I knew that I had a problem.
yeah.
Um, and I came across This Naked Mind, which is an organization and also the name of a book by Annie Grace.
Yeah.
And um, I I got onto their email list, which is very easy to do. um,
Yeah.
and somehow I just had the wisdom not to unsubscribe um, from that.
Wow. Yeah.
And I one day particularly hungover, I think, at work. Just I'd got to work and I thought, oh God, I just can't carry on. There was an email from Annie Grace and This Naked Mind about a course which was about to start, a 3-month course. Um, and I just signed up um, very impetuously uh, and then had buyer's remorse. But I did the course and it was an absolute game changer. And I read the
Yeah.
book, and the book, everything in the book resonated. But the thing that I loved was that the whole stance is this is not your fault. You're not a bad person. Alcohol is an addictive substance, and anybody who drinks enough of it, particularly if
Hmm.
they're drinking to sort of self-medicate,
Yeah.
risks getting into trouble with it. You're
Yeah.
okay. We've got you. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, I then, and it was doing that course that I learnt that alcohol is a known cause of breast cancer, which I
Wow.
literally hadn't known.
Well, and
Um,
it's so crazy because you'll watch the news, and I don't know about in, in England, but here, the first newscast will say, "Oh, a glass of red wine is really healthy for you and it's healthy for your heart." And then they turn around and then the next week it's, "No, it's not healthy for you." So
yeah,
people don't know.
no, no. Well, I mean, I felt really ignorant, but actually, recent research shows that in this country at least, 2/3 of people who are going through treatment for breast cancer don't even know that alcohol is a cause of breast cancer. And it's
Hmm.
not surprising they don't know because they don't get told. I actually asked when I finished my treatment, I said, and the oncologist said, okay, you can, you're free to go. You are cancer free. And I
Yeah.
said, that's great. What do I need to do to stay cancer free? And the advice was to eat healthily and take exercise.
Hmm.
In other words, a healthy lifestyle, but no mention of alcohol. Um,
Wow.
and
Wow.
um, so I did have it out with that particular doctor a few years later once I knew, but I had once I had that information, it's like you can't unlearn a piece of information like that. And I was going to walk, and in fact, I'd organized a team of 8 of us to do a thing called the Moon Walk in aid
Mhm.
of breast cancer charity. Um, and everybody in the group, it was women only. Well, our group was women only. Very few men do it. Um, and it's a 26.2-mile walk in London overnight. Um,
Wow.
and everybody wears sort of bras outside their clothes, and it's very
That's neat.
flamboyant. It's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
And we were doing it to raise money for them. And everybody in our group had a connection to somebody who had breast cancer. They'd either had it themselves, or so my daughter was doing it and her friend, and but we was all of us sort of were motivated to raise money for this charity.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at my daughter Lucy's the night before. She lived in London, and so on the Friday night, we were going to be walking overnight on the Saturday night, and we'd gone out for just an Italian meal, and I had a glass of wine, and so did she. And I sort of like, well, this is a glass of water, but I kind of picked it up, and I looked at it, and I thought, this just makes no sense. Why would I put this in my body when I've just learned that alcohol may well have been a cause of my breast cancer?
Mm.
And it was just a complete I'm done moment. And I handed the wine to Lucy and I said, do you want to finish this? And she went, oh, isn't it very nice? Like, this,
Yeah.
it's fine. I just don't want to drink it.
Yeah.
And she looked at me a bit confused. Sure, she drank it, but um, and that was it. That was the 12th of May
Wow.
2018, and I have not drunk any alcohol, not knowingly. I've had 2 sips accidentally once at my daughter's hen weekend in Portugal, where I asked for an alcohol-free beer and they gave me one with alcohol. So something got
Mhm.
lost in translation. I had a sip and I thought, this has got alcohol in it. And the guy was aghast. I think he thought I was going to smash the place up or something. And once at a wedding a year ago, actually, where I just I had a glass of sparkling non-alcoholic champagne, but I picked up the wrong glass when we were doing the toast,
Oh,
and I tasted
sure.
it. And apparently I pulled a real face out like that. And the person said, "It's really good champagne, you know, Tabbin." And I said, "I'm sure it is, but in my head now, good and champagne just don't go together. It's just like, you know."
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I haven't drunk since then. Um, Everything improved in my life, just like,
I bet.
yeah. Um, and then um, Annie Grace she got in touch and said, "Look, you know, we are recruiting people, or we're going to train up some coaches. Are you interested?" And the first year I said no. I'd been to a conference that she organized in Denver, and she talked about it. And she actually said, "Look, I think you'd," because I'd got to know her quite well on this course that I
Yeah.
did. And she said, "You know, I think you'd make a good coach." And I went, "Nah, I've got a job, you know."
Mm.
Uh, and then luckily she came back a year later and said, "We're going to train some more coaches. I still think you'd be good at it. What about it?" And I thought, "Do you know what? I'm going to do this." Um,
Yeah.
and it was never a plan to become a full-time coach, but I thought, if the more I understand, the more I can help people, and maybe I'll do a bit of coaching in the evenings and weekends and stuff. And
Yeah.
once I was qualified and started doing it, I just loved it. And I sort of had that moment where I was like, this is what you were supposed to be doing all along. You know, not
Yeah.
messing around in an advertising agency.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, within a year or two, I'd resigned from my job, and yeah,
Wow.
not probably the smartest decision financially, but it's
Mm.
not all life's about more than money. Um,
But the thing is it's like what you're passionate about and kind of going to the whole advertising agency, like that whole journey is what led you to do what you're doing
yeah,
now and
yeah,
helping
yeah,
others with their journey and um I
yeah.
don't know.
So
Wow, good
yeah,
for you. That's so amazing.
yeah, and it's just it's work that doesn't feel like work, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Yep. Sure
yeah.
does. Yeah.
Um, uh, and some of the admin and stuff can feel like work, but the actual coaching never. Um,
Yeah.
um, and it's, you know, there's n nothing that is more joyous than working with somebody who's in a real mess with alcohol and has
Mm.
no self-belief and just feels defeated by it, and
Yeah.
helping them get to a place where they're saying, "I can't believe I'm the same person, you know. I don't want to drink anymore."
Mm.
And it's
Wow.
not, I'm not drinking, it's just I don't want to. And that's
Right.
freedom. Yeah.
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 So and I just feel really privileged to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
I mean, I coach for this Naked Mind in their kind of flagship program, which is called The Path.
Yeah.
And then I coach, you know, private clients as well. And um, now I'm starting to work with companies to try and kind of change the culture a bit, because we still have a lot of organizations and companies
Yes.
where alcohol is kind of part of how business is done, or, you know, in the
Mhm.
police force, how people kind of decompress at the end of the day.
Yep.
So I run, you know, sort of awareness training that employers can just say that this isn't about not drinking. And I'm not demonizing alcohol. It doesn't work for me, uh,
Right.
but it's about choices, but
Mhm.
informed choices. So letting people know that, you know, there are health risks attached to drinking, not
Yeah.
just physical health risks, but mental. It
Mm.
it causes, it's a real significant cause of stress, anxiety, and depression. And that's to do with
Yeah.
the biology of how we process alcohol. And people
Right.
don't know that. They joke about anxiety, but it really is a thing. Um,
Right.
and if you
Right.
drink it daily, you're never really free of that. So,
Mhm.
so just say to people that, you know, this is just information that, you know, we should all have, but unfortunately it's not widely known. So here's a few facts. And then
Right.
working with companies. We have mental health first aiders in a lot of organizations here, um,
Mhm.
so that they can help people they can spot the signs. If somebody's saying to them, "Oh, I'm really struggling with stress," the mental health first aider can say, "Okay, let's talk about that, and let's talk about what you're doing at the moment to alleviate that stress,
Right.
cope with it."
Right.
A lot of people, when they're very stressed, will go home and have a couple of glasses of wine or beer or whatever. Um, and not in a judgy way, just say, that's what that often happens.
Right.
Um, if that's you, we can help. We can put you in touch with somebody.
Yeah.
Um, so doing that and then helping people, individuals who are already struggling. Um,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so much shame attached to it. That's the
Hmm.
tragedy of it. And people don't ask for help because they're embarrassed and ashamed. And
Or
um,
they don't think that they're that person, right?
yeah,
Like you had mentioned earlier. What
yeah,
is the definition?
yes, yeah. So
So,
a lot of it is just about saying to people, if you're sort of tired of constantly thinking about drinking,
hmm.
we can do
Yeah.
we can do something about it, and you don't
Yeah.
have to hit a rock bottom. Yeah, and life, we if you're responding to stress and pressure and anxiety by turning to alcohol, you're fueling the fire. So
Yeah.
let's help you with some better coping mechanisms. And really often people have got some deep down unhappiness and feelings of low self-worth and stuff, and not being good enough,
Yeah.
or in some way. And often
Mhm.
it goes back to childhood. And this isn't, your coaching's not therapy. It's not let me solve all your, sort of unravel all your complicated childhood,
Right.
but it's just learning to be kind to yourself and say, actually, all of us deserve to be here and deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
And if a parent wasn't showing love, it doesn't mean you weren't worthy of it. It's probably something to do with them. Um,
Right.
uh, and
Right.
and when you accept that and accept those awkward emotions and uncomfortable feelings, then that's when you can start to make progress. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and for some people, it might be that they're well intended that I'm just gonna have one.
Mm, yeah.
I'm gonna go home and have one.
Yeah.
And then one leads to two, and then two leads to three. And um, I don't know. I think you're really on to such a great way of helping people because alcohol is normalized in I think all societies. It's like a normal thing to go
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
drink and be
Yeah.
with people and drink. So and to cope with stress in that way and
Mm.
trauma, like our veterans who've
Oh,
seen war, like a lot of them end up coping, with substances. And so wow, kudos to
yeah.
you. And I guess my question is like one of my questions is, you're like so in tune and like you've had these like kind of like little aha moments of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think something's wrong with this, I think something's more than just there's a lump.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like your intuition was telling you
Yeah.
during the time? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think it
Yeah.
was that intuition that led me to becoming a coach as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, of just sort of, this is the right thing to do. You
Yeah.
don't have to look into this. This is,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and it helped that I knew the people. I knew Annie. I knew that she wasn't a
Yeah.
charlatan.
Yes.
Quite the reverse. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, absolutely no regrets about doing that,
That's
because
amazing.
and I think the thing is that often we can settle in life, and oh, it's not that bad, and yeah, but is it good enough? Is your life good enough? And every aspect of my life is better now, um,
Yeah.
and I'm you know despite all the cancer, I'm physically stronger than I've ever been, probably.
Mm,
I do loads of exercise. I do high rocks competitions and love it. And was
yeah.
told, oh, you won't get, the surgeon, after all the surgery, said, "Oh, you probably won't, we've had to go quite, you won't get your arm above sort of shoulder height." And I can do that, and I can do press ups and all
Wow.
of the things that I was told that I wouldn't be able to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, watch me. And
Yeah.
but doing it because I really enjoy it and I love it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it's
That's
been,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, eat healthily. I
Yeah.
my lifestyle is you know how I would want it to be, really. Yeah.
That's amazing. That whole transformation. Well, and
Yeah.
when you look at
Yeah.
alcohol, like, even for me now, like, now that I'm postmenopause, I one drink, one glass of wine, and I will be up all night long. My sleep is interrupted. I'm hotter than Hades.
Yeah. Yeah.
My heart's racing. And so, I've found personally that, I wasn't one that was like hitting the bottle every night, but I would go out socially with coworkers and
Mm,
stuff like that. But I found, as my body changed and I'm transitioning into this new phase of
yeah.
life, that my body just doesn't seem to, I don't know if it doesn't process it well
Yeah.
anymore.
I
Or
think
what. It's not
there's
serving
a,
me. So I
yeah,
just,
the connection, but the sort of, I think it's really common for people to find um you know alcohol, somebody here described it as alcohol is like kryptonite to the menopause. Just,
mm,
it takes those
mhm.
symptoms and makes it, exaggerates them a
Oh
lot.
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah,
Terribly, terribly. And I talked to a lot of women where they've experienced the same thing. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Mary Claire Haver, but she's a menopause
right.
specialist. And but that's one thing she talks on is like, she says, if I'm gonna have a glass of wine, I need to compromise with myself. You're gonna suffer.
Yeah, yeah. And
Is it
actually,
worth it?
there was some data, I have a Whoop, the a sort of tracker, fitness tracker,
Yeah,
and they did a study because they've got everybody's recovery scores,
yeah,
and most users will also complete a diary about what they, you just, it's a very quick thing each morning, just what happened the day before, so you can track what influences your recovery.
yeah.
um, and they published this last year. They'd done a whole study of all Whoop users over a year, um, and the thing that affected recovery the most was alcohol.
Mm.
Alcohol, poor recovery, even more than having COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Well,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
so it definitely isn't good for us, and we kind of know it. I mean, we wouldn't get the hangovers if it was a health drink.
Right.
uh,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
But once somebody's using it to self-medicate in any way or to numb,
Mm.
um, it can be really hard to escape that.
Yeah.
And that's where some help. And so anybody listening, yes, there is AA, and by all means try it. But
Mhm.
if it doesn't work for you, there are alternatives. That's the message I'd love people to
Yeah.
to get. Yeah.
Well, and I love that you found an alternative, that
Mm.
you felt a space where you felt comfortable and could explore, because it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
sound like AA really turned out well for you.
No, no, no. And it works for lots of people. And I've got friends who've been
Yeah,
in
of
AA,
course.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to knock them. It's just
Right.
it's horses for courses, really.
Right.
Uh, and
Right.
um, and this method is based on self-compassion. Yeah,
Mhm.
being
Mhm.
nice to yourself, treating yourself as you would treat somebody else.
Right.
Because
Right.
the self-loathing, when you've said, "I'm not going to drink," and you do, and that happens day after day after day, you
Yeah.
just land up hating yourself. I
Mhm.
did, and I know that's pretty universal. So that's the thing that we work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. This
Oh,
is
my
just
pleasure.
amazing. If our listeners and viewers want to find out more about like what you do or what is the best way for them to reach out to you? I know you mentioned LinkedIn was one of
Yeah,
those.
but the easiest is probably my website, which
Okay.
is, yeah, wine2watercoaching.com.
Simple. Wine to
Yeah,
water coaching
wine to
dot.
water. Yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
taken the Bible story of Jesus turning
Love it.
water into wine and flipping
Yeah.
it because
Flipping it.
yeah, that was the real miracle for me. So it's a little bit
Yeah.
sort of um
Yeah.
facetious, but
Well, and it
yeah.
really
So
speaks to
wine
your
to water.
health journey. It really speaks to your
Yeah,
health journey now.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Wine to
Yeah.
water. And it most of the people I coach do go alcohol free rather than moderate, just because once they get on the journey, as it were, they're actually, why would I want a little bit of something I don't want at all anymore? Uh,
Right.
but
Right.
it's not, the coaching isn't anti-alcohol. It's a lot of facts, a lot of science and stuff, and then
Mhm.
informed choices. But let's deal with the kind of emotional void stuff that's making you use it for that purpose. Uh,
Right.
and take it from there. But so it's not you have to go alcohol free to
Right.
work with me. It just happens that most people sort of joyfully do that by the time we
Yeah.
finish. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your
Oh,
story
it's been a
and
pleasure.
being
Absolute
up
pleasure,
so
Gina.
late
Yeah.
for you. Like, what time
Yeah.
is it where you're at right now?
It's midnight now.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your dedication in joining us,
No, but
Central
it's been a
Time,
pleasure. Yeah,
US time.
an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So we'll
Great.
we'll go ahead and we'll post this on. We have it on our Facebook. We'll also post it on our YouTube and Spotify, and we'll also add the links to your information and your book as well. So we didn't even get to your
Fantastic.
book.
Yeah, no, no. Well, it's all there on my website, so
Yeah, sounds
brilliant.
great. Sounds great. Well, thank you so
Wonderful.
much. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
being here
Really,
and
really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
yeah, of
Okay,
course.
bye.
Let's see here.